Today we're going to be talking about making an offer on a home. Now we're going to assume that you've already decided to buy a home, you've already been looking at homes. We're going to talk about how to select your price here shortly, but you're ready to make an offer on a home. And as you know, today's market is quite different than it was years ago. So if you've talked to grandparents or talked to parents, they're going to tell you make sure you go in lower than the asking price. Make sure you get the seller to pay your closing cost. Make sure you ask for a lot of things in repairs. Well, don't do that. That's not the market we're in. Here are the reasons why. Our home market is driven by jobs coming into the Huntsville area. We have more jobs than we have homes, more people looking for homes than we have homes to sell. Our inventory is at historically low levels. With interest rates at historically low levels, you can see how the buyers are stacking up with just a few homes to look at. Every home we have that is move-in ready, or even today close to move-in ready, has multiple offers. And I don't mean just one or two or three offers. I'm talking about 10 or 15 or 20 offers. We had a home last week in southeast Huntsville listed in the twos, ended up with 30 offers on that home. So we're going to talk today about how do you write an offer that's going to get you the home that you want to buy. Now, when you're getting ready to make an offer, there's really only two ways that you can go. You can be offering cash, where you're going to pay 100% of the price that you agree to, or you can do some type of financed offer, where you're going to pay a down payment and then a mortgage company is going to provide the rest of the cash. As you can see from this form, there's a lot of different parts involved to your offer. So we're going to talk about the best price, your earnest money, loan type, down payment, pre-approval, closing cost, closing date, home inspection, and then the all-important additional provisions section. Now, when we're talking about price, you're going to have to determine, based on your objectives, how much this home is worth to you. In other words, what's the maximum price you would pay for this home? We don't have negotiations much anymore because we have so many multiple offers. You're going to have to make what we call your best and final offer on the first go. So sit down with your spouse or your family, whoever you're negotiating with or getting counsel from, and determine for this particular home, what is your maximum price. The listing price is just a starting point. Most of the homes in today's market, they're selling above list price, they're selling above appraised value, they're selling with special inspection addendums. We'll talk about all those coming up. But the first thing for you to do is determine how much you're going to pay for this particular home. Now, earnest money is a check that you write, that you deposit if you get an accepted contract. Earnest money is not an additional fee. It's not an additional charge. It's just a good faith deposit that you're making to illustrate to the seller that you are willing to complete this contract. In our market, we're going to need about 1% earnest money. So if you're looking at a $250,000 home, about $2,500 in earnest money is what's going to be needed. Now, earnest money is going to show up at closing as a credit for you. So if you need it as part of your down payment, if you need it as part of your closing cost, it's going to go toward those fees. If you don't need it, it'll be returned to you at closing. The next thing on the offer doc is to tell the seller what kind of loan you're going to be using if this is a financed contract. Are you going to use a VA loan, conventional, FHA, rural development, first-time home buyer? That's important information for the seller to know because different loans have different advantages and disadvantages for the seller. This is something you want to go over with your realtor and your lender to determine, based on your situation, what's the best loan for you to use. After you've let the seller know what type of loan you're going to use, you're going to let them know what kind of down payment you intend to make. Now, this is going to be looked at, especially when we have multiple offers. The sellers are looking for the strongest buyer to accept a contract on their home because they don't want any issues between now and the time it closes. If they agree to a price and they agree with the buyer, they want the home to close. So if you have a loan and you're doing a 0% down, you don't invest anything in the down payment, that's going to look one way to a seller. If you're doing a 20% down loan, that's going to look a different way to a seller. So again, this is something to discuss with your realtor, with your financial advisor, with your mortgage lender to determine how much down payment you're going to put on your loan, and this is what you're going to let the seller know in this particular section. It says in the contract that you're going to apply for a pre-approval within so many days after contract. Well, that doesn't happen anymore. When you put in an offer, you either need a pre-approved letter for the amount or more than what you're offering on the home, or if you're paying cash, you need a proof of funds from your bank or financial institution that says, yes, this person has this much money available and they can purchase this home. The seller's not going to consider contracts without either proof of funds or a financed letter already with a pre-approved buyer because there's so many offers for them to look at. Again, they're looking for the best quality buyer to go under contract with. Now here's where you're going to tell the seller how much money you expect them to pay toward your closing costs. And I already know the answer to that. The answer is none. The sellers aren't paying any closing costs these days simply because they don't have to. Now if you talk to someone that bought a home 10 or 15 or 20 years ago, they're going to say, hey, make sure the seller pays your closing costs. That's not the way it works today. The sellers are going to look at 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, 20 offers, and there are going to be some in there that are going to ask for closing costs. But that's not the offers that you're going to accept. They're going to look for the highest net value for the seller, and that has to do with the maximum amount that they can get for the home with the least amount that they have to contribute to this closing cost area. So you need to plan in advance to pay your own closing costs. We'll look in a minute about how much cash it's going to take to buy a home, and that's where this calculation is going to come in. Now the closing date, you need to be flexible if you can, because sellers may be purchasing a new home, they may be building a new home. If it's new construction, it could have a variable closing date. So if you have the ability to be flexible on your closing date, in other words, to close longer than 30 days from now or 60 days from now, and that's something that's attractive to the seller, that could give you an advantage in this particular point of the process. So determine what your needs are as far as a moving date. And if you can be more flexible in this section, that can make your offer look better than someone else's. Now you're going to have to tell the seller what your thoughts are on a home inspection. So you're going to check, yes, I require a home inspection, or no, I don't require a home inspection. Now, if you don't require a home inspection, that doesn't mean the home is not going to be in good condition, because there's a paragraph 4 in the contract which says that things like appliances, heat pumps, electrical systems, cooling systems, plumbing systems, those have to be in good working order when the home transfers. Now beware, a lot of homes on the market now are being sold as is, where is. That means that the seller is not going to make any repairs. So you either have to do a really good survey of the home before you make an offer, or you have to write what I call a walkaway offer, where you'll say, we're going to buy this home for this amount, but we're going to do a home inspection after we agree to a contract. If we like the inspection, we'll move forward. Now I'm going to tell you now, those are not probably going to be accepted, again, because the seller is going to have many offers that are going to waive inspections. But you just have to do whatever is in your best interest. You have to keep working, keep adding, keep fighting, and when you get to the right home, it'll connect for you. The additional provisions section is where we're going to put anything that's not included in the basic contract. We're going to put things in here like an escalation clause. For example, if you want to start at a certain price, but you really want this home, you're going to agree to pay more than the seller's next best offer up to whatever your maximum price is. We're going to write in here something about the appraisal. Maybe you don't care what the appraised value is, and you have the funds to pay the difference between the appraised value and the contract price if you're financing. Maybe you want to put a cap on how much you'll pay over the appraised value. We may put comments in here that have to do with inspections. Maybe you don't let the seller know you're only going to look for what we call major defects. Those are things that have to do with health or safety or structure. You're not going to nitpick on your inspection report and ask for all the cosmetic issues to be done. This is an area where we put additional provisions where we let the seller know what our intentions are and what we'd like to do. We're going to try and customize this section to work for us, but to also look very attractive to the seller. Now, once you decide to buy a home, we're going to talk about now how much cash it takes to buy a home, because the days of no money down, buy a home with no money down, that's not out there anymore. There's no way for you to buy a personal property for you to live in with no money down. So there are going to be some cost involved. So we want to take a look at how to help you determine what that's going to be so that you can prepare, so that you can determine if you're actually ready to make an offer on a property. Now, for a rule of thumb, we're going to try and get a purchase price for you, and then we're going to back up to see what that might cost to purchase a home like that. So what you want to do is use about $500 per $100,000 of home value. So as you can see here, a $100,000 home would be about a $500 payment. So what kind of payment do you want? If you're comfortable with a $1,500 a month payment, that's about a $300,000 home. So here you see how it works. Pick your payment. Now once you know your payment and you know the price of the home that you want to buy, pause the video, get your pen and paper, and now we're going to look at how much cash it's going to take for you to invest in that property. Now, as far as purchasing the home, there are 3 large buckets of money that you're going to need to buy your home. The first is going to be your down payment. Second is going to be your closing cost. And the third is going to be if there's an amount that you're going to pay above the appraised value if you're working on a finance contract. So let's talk first about the down payment. Now, depending on the type of loan that you have, that's going to determine what your down payment's going to be. If you're going to do a VA loan for veterans, if you're going to do a first-time home buyer loan, if you're going to do a rural development loan, those loans have a 0 down payment option. There's some credit unions that offer loans for first-time home buyers with 0 down payment. So based on your loan, this bucket could be 0. Now, the most common type of finance contract in our market is an FHA contract. It's going to have a 3.5% down payment. A conventional finance contract is going to have a 5% down payment. So if you know now that you're not going to get a loan with a 0 down payment, just for quick reference, use the 5% conventional down payment, multiply that times the purchase price of your home, and that's going to be your first bucket. Your second bucket of money is going to be for your closing costs. Remember, we've already said the sellers are not paying closing costs these days. It's almost wasting your time to write it in, but if that's what you want to do, and I'm your realtor, I'm going to write it in, but I'm going to make sure we have a conversation that you understand that that's probably not going to be a winning offer. But for purposes here, just use 3% of the total purchase price that you're going to spend on your home for closing costs. Now, the closing costs are things like what your mortgage company charges for a loan, what the attorney charges to do the paperwork and do the title search, title insurance that you're going to buy to protect you financially in case there's anything that comes up about the title to your property, homeowner's insurance that you're going to purchase. You pay for that 1 year in advance, and then it comes out monthly in your payment. So those are what the closing costs are, and you'll get a detailed estimate from your lender. You'll also get an estimate from your realtor when you make an offer to give you an idea of what those are going to be. But for this purpose, just use 3% times the home price that you're purchasing, and that's going to be your bucket for closing costs. Now, if you've decided that you really want this home and you're willing to pay a little more than the appraised value, this is going to be your third bucket of funds. How much are you willing to pay above the appraised value? The reason you have to calculate this is because if you're financing the mortgage, your loan is based on the appraised value of the home. So if you have a 5% down payment, your bank or your mortgage company is going to loan you 95% of the appraised value of the home. But if the price that you've agreed to is more than the appraised value, you'll have to make up that difference. So you might want to say, I'm going to do $5,000 more than the appraised, or $10,000. I've had clients that go to $20,000 or $25,000 above appraised value. It all depends on what you need, what you're looking for, what options are available, and what your cash reserves are. So this is your third bucket, how much you're going to pay above appraised value, if any. Now, as you can see, there's a lot of components that go into making an offer. So let's put together a game plan for success for you. Number one on your game plan is to get with a realtor. Get with a realtor. You need a realtor if you're a buyer in this market. There's a lot of things to discuss. There's a lot of things going on in the market. You just need someone who's done it hundreds of times to help you, even if this is your third or fourth or fifth home, because you probably have never bought a home in this kind of market before. The next thing you need to do is to get your realtor to set you up on instant property alerts. Now, when you look at Zillow or Trulia or Realtor.com, all of their information comes from our local MLS service. Well, your realtor can set you up with a direct link from our MLS service. So as soon as an agent hit enter to put that home on the market, you'll get an email. What you have to do is look at that email, and if that's a home that you're interested in, you need to connect with your realtor and go out and see that home today, tomorrow morning at the latest. Typically what's going to happen is a home goes on the market. It's going to be on the market for a day or two, but offers will start coming in as soon as it hits the market. We're getting offers, sight unseen offers from buyers from out of town. We're getting sight unseen offers from investors that are local. So you need to know instantly what's available, and if you like it, you need to go very quickly to see it. Now, if you go see the property and you like the property and you decide you want to make an offer, just make the best offer you can. Don't stress over is it good enough or bad enough or what's happening. All you can do is to find a home you like and make the best offer you can on that home. But you need to be prepared to not win every offer. We have clients that have gone 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8 times before they eventually connect on a home. So this is going to be a marathon, not a sprint. So you have to be mentally prepared to have some offers rejected. Don't get discouraged. Make the best offer you can. If that one doesn't work, repeat. Get your alert, look at the property, go see it, and make another offer. This is going to be a long-term process, but if you stay with it, you're going to be able to find the home that's going to work just perfectly for you. Now, if this information has been helpful to you, hit the like button below. That way we can share it with other people it might help. If you're ready to make an offer and you don't have a realtor, connect with us and let us help you. We've written hundreds of offers. We've had them accepted. Now, we've, like everyone else, have had offers that have not been accepted, but that's just part of the process. But we'd love to work with you on your new home purchase, whether it's your first home or whether it's your 10th home. We can be a big service to you, and it doesn't cost you anything to use us as a representative. There are no fees that you pay. The seller pays the realtor fees, so there's no cost for you to have realtor representation, and today you really need it. If you have any questions, you can put the questions in the comment section. We'll answer all those within 48 hours. Thanks for watching this video, and let's go out and make it a great day.